The greater the opportunity if you have the leadership and strategic skills to capitalize on it. Through research at the Wharton School, at our consulting firm, involving more than 20,000 executives to date, we have identified 6 skills that, when mastered and used in concert, allow leaders to think strategically and navigate the unknown effectively. The abilities to anticipate, challenge, interpret, design, align, and learn. Each has received attention in the strategic literature, but usually in isolation and seldom in the special context of high stakes and deep uncertainty that can make or break both companies and also careers. This model describes the 6 skills in detail. An adaptive strategic leader, some who is both resolute and flexible, persistent in the face of setbacks, but also able to react strategically to environmental shifts, has learned to apply all 6 at once. This is Victor Marromo, your strategic consultant and coach. I hope that you learn a lot in this model. Said this, let's begin. What is strategic thinking? Part 1. Model 1. Strategic leadership. The essential skills. A model by Mr. Paul G. Shoemaker, Mr. Stu Krupp, and Miss Samantha Howland. Hello, manager. This is Victor Marron, your strategic planning and performance management consultant and coach. Let's begin. The storied British banker and financier Nathan Rothschild noted that great fortunes are made when cannonballs fall in the harbor, not when violins play in the ballroom. Rothschild understood that the more unpredictable the environment, the greater the opportunity, if you have the leadership skills to capitalize on it. Through research at the Wharton School, at our consulting firm, involving more than 20,000 executives to date, we have identified 6 skills that, when mastered and used in concert, allow leaders to think strategically and navigate the unknown effectively. The abilities to anticipate, challenge, interpret, decide, align, and learn. Each has received attention in the leadership literature, but usually in isolation and seldom in the special context of high stakes and deep uncertainty that can make or break both companies and careers. This model describes the 6 skills in detail and will be presented in the current consulting slides. An adaptive strategic leader, someone who is both resolute and flexible, persistent in the set of facebacks, but also able to react strategically to environmental shifts, has learned to apply all 6 at once. So, my fellow managers, try to understand, learn, and apply these 6 skills. Do you have the right networks to help you see opportunities before competitors do? Are you comfortable challenging your own and others' assumptions? Can you get a diverse group to buy into a common vision? Do you learn from mistakes? By answering questions like this, you'll get a clear view of your abilities in each area. The self-test at this model end will help you gauge your strengths and weaknesses, address deficits, and optimize your full portfolio of leadership and strategic skills. Let's look at each skill in turn. 1. Anticipate. Most organizations and business units and leaders are poor at detecting ambiguous threats and opportunities on the periphery of their business. Course executives famously were late seeing the trend toward low-carb beers. Lego management missed the electronic revolution in toys and gaming. Strategic leaders and managers, in contrast, are constantly vigilant, honing their ability to anticipate by scanning the environment for signals of change. We work with a CEO named Mike, who had built his reputation as a turnaround wizard in heavy manufacturing businesses. He was terrific at reacting to crises and fixing them. After he'd worked his magic in one particular crisis, Mike's company enjoyed a bump in growth, fueled in part by an upcycle. But after the cycle had peaked, demand abruptly softened, catching Mike off guard. More of the same in a down market wasn't going to work. Mike needed to consider various scenarios and gather better information from diverse sources in order to anticipate where his industry was headed. We showed Mike and his team how to pick up weak signals from both inside and outside the organization. They worked to develop broader and to take the perspective of customers, competitors, employees, partners, the key stakeholders, more alert to opportunities outside a core business. Mike and the team diversified their portfolio and acquired a company in an adjacent market, where demand was higher and less susceptible to boom and bust cycles. To improve your ability to anticipate, talk to your customers, suppliers, and other employees and partners to understand their challenges. What do they know? What are their insights? Conduct market research and business simulations to understand competitors' perspectives. Gauge their likely reactions to new initiatives or products and predict potential disruptive offerings. Use scenario planning to imagine various futures and prepare for the unexpected. Look at the fast-growing rival and examine actions it has taken that puzzle you. These customers you have lost recently and try to figure out why. attend conferences and events in other industries or functions for benchmarking. So, my fellow managers, we are entering a turbulent zone here. We don't know if we are in a recession or just a economic downturn, or maybe high inflation period, or the worst of all, an stagflation period. We as organizations, managers, and strategic thinkers need to anticipate that threats. What our customers want in this economic downturn, how our employees are feeling, how our suppliers are working with us in their supply chain. Would they be able to supply to us? Or we need to check for new suppliers. Owners, how do they feel? Are they aware of this strategic thinking? Do they think they need to lay off employees or invest on learning and development like these courses? What do you think? Reflect a moment and let me know. Let's continue with number 2, challenge. Skill number 2, challenge. Strategic thinkers and managers question their status quo. They challenge their own and others' assumptions and encourage different point of views. Only after careful reflection and examination of a problem through many lenses do they take decisive action. This requires patience, courage, knowledge, critical thinking, and an open mind. Consider Bob, a division president in an energy company we worked with, who was set in his ways and avoided risky or messy situations. When faced with a tough problem, for example, how to consolidate business units to streamline costs, he would gather all available information and retreat alone into his office. His solutions, although well thought on, were predictable and rarely innovative. In the consolidation case, he focused entirely on two similar and underperforming businesses, rather than consider a bolder reorganization that would streamline activities across the entire division. When he needed outside advice, he turned to a few seasoned consultants in one trusted firm, who suggested tried and true solutions instead of questioning basic industry assumptions. Through coaching, we help Bob learn how to invite different, even opposing views to challenge his own thinking and that of his advisors. This was uncomfortable for him at first, but then he began to see that he could get and generate new ideas and solutions to stale problems and improve his strategic decision making. For the organizational streamlining, he even assigned a colleague to play devil's advocate, an approach that yielded a hybrid solution. Certain emerging market teams were allowed to keep their local HR and finance support for a transitional period, while tapping the fully centralized model for IT and legal support. So, to improve your ability to challenge, focus on the root causes of a problem rather than the symptoms. Apply the 5 whys of Sakichi Toyoda, Toyota's founder. Product returns increased 5% this month. Why? Because the product intermittently malfunctions. Why? And so on. List long-standing assumptions about an aspect of your business. High switching costs prevent our customers from defecting, and ask a diverse group if they hold true. Encourage debate by holding safe zone meetings where open dialogue and conflict are expressed and welcomed. And this is with customers and employees and suppliers. Sometimes suppliers are no longer happy working with us, and they are planning in ending our business relationship. But we as an organization immersed in operations and day-to-day activities can't see that. And then one day it comes, a letter of termination. What we will do? What are the new suppliers available? Are they in the region? We need to import new things, or maybe manufacture. These can be very, very, very damaging to our organization. Create a rotating position for the express purpose of questioning the status quo. Include naysayers in a decision process to surface challenges early. Capture input from people not directly affected by a decision who may have a good perspective on the repercussions. So, let's reflect how we are going to challenge the status quo. How are we going to challenge the problems that we have with suppliers, or may arise with suppliers, with customers, with employees, with our corporate or CEOs? Let's reflect and discuss. Number 3, interpret. Leaders who challenge in the right way invariably elicit complex and conflicting information. That's why the best ones are also able to interpret. Reflect. Instead of reflexively seeing or hearing what you expect, you should synthesize all the input you have. You will need to recognize patterns, push through ambiguity, and seek new insights. Some years ago, Liz, a US food company CMO, was developing a marketing plan for the company's low-carb cake line. Remember, when we are saying strategy, sometimes managers are referring to plan. So keep that in mind. At this time, the Atkins diet was popular, and every food company had a low-carb strategy. But Liz noticed that none of the consumers she listened to was avoiding the company's snacks because he or she was on a low carb diet. Rather, a fast growing segment, people with diabetes, shun them because they contain sugar. Liz thought her company might achieve higher sales if it began to serve diabetics rather than fickle dieters. Her ability to connect the dots ultimately led to a fruitful change in product mix from low carb to sugar free. So, to improve your ability to interpret, when analyzing ambiguous data, list the three possible explanations for what you're observing and invite perspectives from diverse key stakeholders. Force yourself to zoom in on the details and now to see the big picture. Actively look for missing information and evidence that disconfirms your hypothesis. Supplement observation with quantitative analysis. Step away. Go for a walk. Look at art. Put on non-traditional music. Play ping pong. And promote yourself an open mind. 4. Decide. In uncertain times, decision makers may have to make tough calls with incomplete information, and often they must do so quickly. But strategic thinkers insist on multiple options at the outset and don't get prematurely locked into simplistic go, no-go choices. They don't shoot from the hip, but follow a disciplined process that balances rigor with speed, considers the trade-offs involved, and takes both short and long-term goals into account. In the end, strategic leaders must have the courage of their convictions, informed by a robust decision process. Janet, an execution-oriented division president in a technology business, liked to make decisions quickly and keep the process simple. This worked well when the competitive landscape was familiar and the choices straightforward. Unfortunately for her, the industry was shifting rapidly as non-traditional competitors from other countries like Korea began seizing market share with lower priced products. Janet's instinct was to make a strategic acquisition in a low-cost geography, a yes or no proposition, to preserve the company's competitive pricing position and market share. As the plan's champion, she pushed for a rapid green light, but because capital was short, the CEO and the CFO resisted. Surprised by this, she gathered the principals involved in the decision making and challenged them to come up with other options. The team elected to take a methodological approach and explore the possibility of a joint venture or a strategic alliance. On the basis of that analysis, Janet ultimately pursued an acquisition, but of a different company in a more strategic market. So, to improve your ability to decide, reframe binary decisions by explicitly asking your team, what other options do we have? Divide big decisions into pieces to understand the component parts and better see unintended consequences. Tailor your decision criteria to long-term versus short-term projects. Let others know where you are in your decision process. Are you still seeking divergent ideas and debate? Or are you moving towards closure and choice? Determine who needs to be directly involved and who can influence the success of your decision. Consider pilots or experiments instead of big bets, and make staged commitments. 5. Align. Strategic leaders must be adept at finding common ground and achieving buy-in among stakeholders who have disparate views and agendas. This requires active outreach. Success depends on proactive communication, trust building, and frequent engagement with your key stakeholders. That is suppliers, employees, customers, and owners or top management. Remember, sometimes top management is very keen to be in their office analyzing numbers and financials, and they sometimes don't have the correct view or opinion or approach to what is happening with the key stakeholders. What is happening with the suppliers? What is happening with customers? What is really happening with employees? So, you need to be a force to align that communication. One executive we work with, a chemical company president in charge of the Chinese market, was tireless in trying to expand his business, but he had difficulty getting support from colleagues elsewhere in the world. Frustrated that they didn't share his enthusiasm for opportunities in China, he plowed forward alone, further alienating them. A survey revealed that his colleagues didn't fully understand his strategy and thus hesitated to back him. With our help, the president turned the situation around. He began to have regular face-to-face meetings with his fellow leaders, in which he detailed his growth plans and solicited feedback, participation, and different points of view. Gradually, they began to see the benefits for their own functions and lines of business. With greater collaboration, remember, collaborative mindset. This is a mindset that we need to implement in the key stakeholders' employees. Sales increased, and the president came to see his colleagues as strategic partners rather than obstacles. To improve your ability to align, communicate early and often to combat the two most common complaints in organizations. No one ever asked me, and no one ever told me. Identify key internal and external stakeholders, mapping their positions on your initiative and pinpointing any misalignment of interests. Look for hidden agendas and coalitions. This, my friend, is a key point. When we map our key stakeholders and their objectives and analyze their agendas and their KPIs, we always find gaps of what is missing. Is it communication? Is a sale? It is some delivery that was not going on time, you can find a lot of that. I will put the chart of mapping key stakeholders. Use structured and facilitated conversations to expose areas of misunderstanding or resistance. This is also a key point. When we use models like this, we can develop a whole exercise in alignment. Reach out to resistors directly to understand their concerns and then address them. Be vigilant in monitoring stakeholders' positions during the rollout of your initiative or strategy. Recognize and otherwise reward colleagues who support team alignment. And that is crucial. When you analyze and recognize when key employees contribute to this alignment by their insights, their learning, documenting information, sharing information about customers, not just keeping the info for them, and saying their management, saying their leaders, ways to improve. You need to recognize and reward this action. This is critical thinking at 100%, my fellow managers. So, recognize and otherwise reward colleagues who support team alignment. Learn. Strategic leaders are the focal point for organizational learning. They promote a culture of inquiry, and they search for lessons in both successful and unsuccessful outcomes. They study failures, wins, losses of their own and their teams in an open, constructive way to find the hidden lessons. A team of 4 senior leaders from a pharmaceutical company, including the CEO, took this strategic aptitude self-assessment that we will be pointing here and discovered that learning was their weakest collective area of leadership. At all levels of the company, it emerged the tendency was to punish rather than learn from mistakes, to give feedback rather than align with feed forward, which meant that leaders often went to great lengths to cover up their own. This CEO realized that the culture had to change if the company was to become more innovative. Under his leadership, the team launched 3 initiatives. 1. A program to publicize stories about projects that initially failed but ultimately led to creative solutions or learnings. 2. A program to engage cross-divisional teams in novel experiments to solve customer problems, and then report the results regardless of outcome. And 3. An innovation tournament to generate new ideas from across the organization. Meanwhile, the CEO himself became more open in acknowledging his missteps. For example, he described to a group of high potentials how his delay in selling stalled legacy business unit had prevented the enterprise from acquiring a diagnostics company that would have expanded its market share. The lesson, he explained, was that he should more readily cut losses on underperforming investments. In time, the company culture shifted toward more shared learning and bolder innovation. So, my fellow managers, to improve your ability to learn institute after action reviews, document lessons learned from major decisions or milestones, including the termination of a failing project, and broadly communicate the resulting insights. This one was one of my part when I was working in a consulting IT firm. I went to failed projects where consultants spend a lot of resources, hours of consulting, but they didn't close the deal. They just went and stayed in the pre-sale step. I documented what happened, some learnings about what happened, what was about the customer, what was the gap missing. And this was when I really understand the power of stopping, pausing, reflecting about failures and experiences not reached. They are a great way to learn. And so managers and our key stakeholder owners and CEOs and top leadership need to invest in this area. Sometimes when we have economic downturns, we can stop and learn how can we be better to help understand and reframe what our key stakeholders really need. So, reward managers who try something laudable but fail in terms of outcomes. Reward. Insight. Conduct and learning audits to see where decisions and team interactions may have fallen short. Identify initiatives that are not producing as expected and examine the root causes. Create a culture in which inquiry is valued and mistakes are viewed as learning opportunities. Remember that culture is something very subjective. But when we align reward, learning, and these 6 key essential skills, we are creating culture in which managers can stop, reflect, learn, align, decide, interpret, challenge, and anticipate. So, we are closing this model. I am going to post the assessment. Are you a strategic leader? Becoming a strategic leader means identifying weaknesses in the 6 skills in this assessment and discuss them and correcting them. Our research shows that strength in one skill cannot easily compensate for a deficit in another. So it is important to methodologically optimize all 6 abilities. The Are You Strategic Leader assessment will be posted, which is a short version of the strategic aptitude assessment and can help reveal which areas require attention to clarify and apply the results as colleagues, or at least your manager, to review and comment on your answers. So my friends, we've reached the end of this model. I hope that it was insightful and you can reflect on the results on the assessment of the strategic leader. The next model is being a strategic leader is about asking the right questions by Lisa Lai. So, see you in the next model, and please send me any inquiries, comments, or questions that you can have regarding this model, or how can we help your team's organization become more wise in strategy. Goodbye and have a nice day.